And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again here to the Coaches Show. Adam Gore, Jeremy Kennedy, and Adam Hamilton on hand tonight. And Jeremy, a lot to talk about. We'll start off talking about highlighting some of the basketball we saw last week. Probably not what we want to highlight, talking about Calumet City basketball, giving up a 22-point lead to lose a 76-74 final to Oklahoma last week. Calumet City, they're playing flat. They lost to Houston Saturday night by 6, and the killer schedule closing out here. This could be a team that really needs something good to happen, or they could be going into the playoffs with a big nosedive.
Yeah, well, for 2.5 quarters, they played extremely well. You and I talked about it on the air. This team, you could plot it with a graph as far as how well they were playing and how we thought they could end up in Jackson. But to watch them play for 2.5 quarters so well, and then to watch them crumble down the stretch, and then you talked about the emotional the aspect of it with Oklahoma, and especially with Coach Coffey, talking to him after the ball game, he just really kind of down on himself and the team, and then to come back and lose the next night to a team that was not as talented as they were. They're still a young team. A lot of people have to remember that, and so when you're young, those emotional losses can affect you like that, and with the schedule they have down the stretch, it's either going to be good for them as far as to get their confidence back if they can pick up some wins, or it's going to be a situation where they're tired of losing and tired of playing, and they can end up tanking it towards the end of the season.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about that later in the show tonight. Another ball game we saw, Aberdeen-Nelton, the biggest ball game that we've probably seen built up to the point this year. Kind of a letdown. Nelton didn't come out and play their best basketball game, but you got to figure these two teams want to see each other again. It'll be a different Nelton, different Aberdeen team, but another great atmosphere.
Nelton not playing their best game, maybe the understatement since you and I have been working together. That was one of the most poor performances I've ever seen out of a well-coached team with a lot of talent. Nelton, for some reason, came out flat. They got nothing going offensively. Jeremy Word didn't step up. Pierre Hadley didn't get the ball that much. I'm not real sure their game plan and their thought process. But all that aside, Aberdeen played well. They rebounded the basketball. We talked about it. Johnson had to have a solid performance. He gave them the performance that they needed to win the ball game. Thought it was a lot more low scoring than we expected. You and I were hoping it would be somewhere in the 80s with that kind of atmosphere. But Nettleton shot, I think it's not realistic to say Nettleton probably shot 30% from the floor.
Well, you look at Jeremy Word, he only made 2 field goals and had 6 points on the night. So.
Yeah, he struggled from the free throw line as well, which we saw Nettleton struggle at the free throw line against Tupelo as well. But for that big of a game and for that atmosphere, and for Nettleton to come out as flat as they did, really disappointed in the way they played.
Absolutely, of course, but Aberdeen fans, you got to love it. Big ups to Aberdeen, as you talked about a while ago. They came out, and you could tell Aberdeen wanted that basketball game. They knew it was a big ball game. They knew they could come out and make a statement, and they said, if we come out, do our job, get it done on the inside, we're going to win this ball game, and they did.
You're absolutely right, they did. You got to give credit to Little as well. He led them, had a solid performance, but they really dominated on the glass. That's where they won the basketball game. Nettleton, as we've talked about so many times, not a player on their team taller than 6'2", and we thought it may hurt them once they came across some teams that had bigger inside players. Their athleticism could combat that, but Aberdeen just did a great job. They're talking about a team that's well coached. Coach Hazel does a great job with them because their control along with their athleticism really took Nettleton out of the ball game early. They built a big lead. They withstood a big Nettleton run to end the second half, and when they came out in the third quarter, they really had a killer instinct to knock Nettleton right out of the ball game.
Absolutely. Well, we saw 2 weeks ago, it was the guys being focused on the Hotbed Classic in New Albany. So Robertson Sportswear Classic coming up this weekend. We'll be on hand for 4 games as well for this one. Quickly, we'll run down the schedule for you. It starts off at 10 o'clock with the East Union versus Corinth tip-off. 11:15 will be West Union versus Thrasher. 12:30 Ingomar versus New Site. 1:45 Myrtle versus Alcorn Central. 3 o'clock New Albany versus Hawka. 4:15 Choctaw Central versus Pine Grove. 5:30 Bartlett, Tennessee will take on Pontotoc. 6:45 Senatobia versus Briarcrest, and 8 o'clock Wayne County versus Tupelo. Jared, we talked about it being a big hotbed classic. This girls, if you look at the rankings, you've got the number 2 team in the state, Tupelo, who was number 4 but lost over the weekend, so new rankings hadn't come out. Tupelo, Wayne County, 2 of the top 5 teams in the state. Then you've got Senatobia, who is ranked number 5, could move up to that number 4 spot after the Tupelo loss. And then Pontotoc girls, also they're hovering around the top 10 mark. They're number 3 in the 4A region as well. So this has got a lot of top talent. Of course, Briarcrest, you just have to say the name Briarcrest. You know how good they are in girls basketball.
Yeah, they do. They usually put out a pretty good team. But I think the matchup everybody's going to be waiting to see is 8 o'clock. Wayne County and Tupelo. You can always expect Tupelo, they're good in everything. They always produce solid athletes. But one thing that impresses me every year is how you get these teams in the tournament and the matchups. How do the matchups turn out? You try to match them up with the best teams possible. The guys' action, we thought, with some of the games where they played out, one of the best matchups we've seen. The girls, on paper, looks that same way. You talk about Pontotoc, Wayne County and Tupelo. You got Senatobia. A lot of good teams up here in the north part of the state, especially in our viewing area. We throw in Pontotoc in there as well, and so it'll be interesting to see if these matchups on paper turn out to be as good as they are on the court.
Absolutely. Of course, we'll be there to cover the following games. We'll have the West Union versus Thrasher game, Ingomar versus New Site, New Albany versus Hulka, and then we'll finish up with the 5:30 matchup, Pontotoc versus Bartlett, Tennessee. Whenever we look at this New Albany-Hulka matchup, we saw it in the boys' game. Hulka, they didn't play good basketball, and they lost a close basketball game. But the Lady Wildcats of Hulka, the 1A school taking on the 4A school on their home floor, it's hard to say this, but you kind of got to favor the Lady Wildcats.
Absolutely. They do a good job, especially it's a lot like Ingomar. They're coached by a legend, and Jimmy Guy McDonald, so he knows exactly what he's doing. And for a 1A school to be the favorite over a 4A school, especially on the home floor, it doesn't happen very much. And so for them, they don't have an inferiority complex to anybody. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see if New Albany can handle that, because they're probably going to get a lot of flack if they don't come out victorious.
Absolutely. Now, one thing we don't know about is Bartlett, Tennessee, so we really can't talk about the Pontotoc girls game much, but no secret, Deamber Johnson's going to come out. She's going to get hers. It's the players around her that's going to have to step up and help them be successful.
And that's going to be the same formula for throughout the playoffs. If they can find that number 2 scorer to assist her at all, the Lady Warriors can go deep into the playoffs, because they're well coached and they've got a lot of talent. But Deamber just she steals all the headlines, and there's no way that anybody's going to stop her from getting her 20-25 points a night. It's just, can you stop anybody else from giving her any help?
Absolutely. She dropped 40 on Tupelo, so that says a lot there for Deamber as well. Also, I think she's only a sophomore, so a bright future ahead of her there. Well, that's going to pretty much wrap up the Robertson Sportswear Challenge Overlook. Remind everybody that gymnasium is not at the high school, it's at the middle school. So if you want to come out, I think it's the same cost as the Hotbed Classic was, $6 for 8 games. If you like basketball, you can't beat that if you try.
Absolutely, and we saw some great matchups. A big crowd there for the guys' action. Hopefully there'll be a good crowd there for the girls' action. You got some of the same teams. Tupelo, Pontotoc are there, so hopefully they'll come out and see some good basketball, especially in the later matchups in the night.
We're going to take it to a quick break. This is if you're watching the Coaches Show here at Westside Grill, located across from Sonic and Bruce. The telephone number, 983-2828. You can give Charles a call here and place an order, and back there cooking for us already, and so we're looking for that as well. Guys, we talked about their hamburgers last week. We had the catfish. You can't beat it.
Not at all. I started off with the hamburger steak, switched to the catfish, and haven't changed since. And they do Charles does a great job here, and especially you get to come here and talk about some high school sports and eat some food. It's not a better way to spend a Monday night.
Absolutely. We're going to take you to a quick break, hear from some of the sponsors as well as Westside Grill, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Hey, yo, Charles. Yo, this is Steven. Cook me up another one of them burgers. Man, I need some fuel. Yo, Westside!
And welcome back to the Coaches Show, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Gore, Jeremy Kennedy, Adam Hamilton on hand here at Westside Grill. Jeremy, a little interesting change, I guess you say, days of the lives of Lee Chambers here. We talked about him going a couple of weeks ago to Alabama, was blown away by Alabama, and I said if he was that impressed by Tuscaloosa, wait till he goes to Miami. And the captions today on some of the high school sports sites was greatest trip or greatest place I've ever been.
Yeah, and you can really expect that. It's Miami. You know, he's from small town North Mississippi. He goes to South Beach. You can expect he's going to be blown away. But, you know, really surprised that he's really held on to his commitment to Mississippi State this long with Alabama and Miami recruiting him. The only thing that I would caution Chambers is to look always what's more important. You want to play, you know, or because at Miami, you know, they're always knee deep at running back. The same with Alabama. At Mississippi State, and they've got Dixon, who's a fabulous running back, and not a lot of help after that. So Chambers, it wouldn't surprise me to see him end up at Mississippi State because of the depth chart situation. But you certainly can't blame the kid if he wants to go spend 4 years in South Beach.
Absolutely. Well, I think the thing that's really getting Chambers to look at it is everybody's throwing out the word all-purpose back, not just a running back. Saying we can throw it out to you, let you make plays on your own, be a playmaker. The kids at that age, they like the sound of being a playmaker, especially after that guy coming out of USC.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, you're right. And I think that's the best point. It's the Reggie Bush factor because Reggie Bush, 5'8", 5'9", 170 pounds is about what Lee Chambers is. And you can't run up the middle in the SEC or in the ACC at 5'9", 175. It's not going to happen. And so I think using him as a wide receiver, as a scat back, returning kicks, returning punts will suit him better. And when teams throw that out at him, you know, I'm sure Mississippi State's also told him the same thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that. But certainly I think that's the best way he's going to be used on the next level, and that's going to give him the best chance to succeed.
All right. Well, I know it's going to be hard for you to do here, but let's look at this through the eyes of Mississippi State fans. How worried are you now that Lee Chambers is slipping right through your fingers?
I think you have to be really worried because at the same time, you know, Alabama and Miami now come calling for a kid that really was kind of on the low spot of the radar. You know, Ole Miss didn't recruit him that heavily, and when State jumped on him big time, you know, he committed to them really over Southern Miss, and then Alabama and Miami kind of got in late. So at the beginning of this, you weren't really sure how serious Alabama and Miami were. If it was just, you know, we're going to take a look at him and just see some film, but bringing him in for official visit, that's. You know, I mean, you don't bring in a kid for an official visit just to take a look. You're serious about the kid. And so I think you got to be a little worried about that, but at the same time, you got to hope that your depth chart at the running back position is going to turn the favor in you know, to Mississippi State if you're a fan.
Absolutely. I think the one thing the State's got going against them right now, there's not a lot of excitement on campus as there is in Tuscaloosa and South Beach because there's new coaches. They're going to come in. They're going to be energized. You know, the whole town's going to be buzzing. You get a young kid in there like that, and he's going to get caught up in that type of a circus. And you look at it there, you know, State now is really going to pick up an extra gear or two and really make Starkville, this is going to be hard to do, really make Starkville interesting.
Well, the one thing you have to look at, too, with Miami and Alabama is the tradition of winning. Alabama and their 12 national championships, and Miami and their 5 in the last 20 years or so. And I think that you touched on the coaches, Randy Shannon, the new head coach of Miami, Nick Saban, a big-time buzz all over the world, really, with his flirting with the Alabama job and then taking it. And now you talk about it, Kroom's going to be in his 4th year. You know, he's only won 9 or 10 games. And so, you know, I mean, you take a look at that. And while Lee Chambers, it's only, an hour, say, to Starkville or so, the distance factor, not sure how much that'll play into it. But you got to come up with some sort of selling point to keep him in the state of Mississippi, because it'd be easy for him to definitely go to Alabama and play for Nick Saban, or to Miami to play for Randy Shannon, and especially with all the mantra about the U down there in South Beach.
Absolutely. I think Charles might have just fell in the back. But you look at it this way, Jeremy, the selling point for Mississippi State right now is playing time, because that is what they're really going to have to harp on in this situation. Because let's be honest, Starkville cannot compete against Alabama and Miami.
Well, a lot of places in Mississippi, a lot of places in the country don't compete to South Beach, and a lot of college football atmospheres don't compete with Alabama. But like again, you look at the depth chart. You've got Dixon, who is an outstanding running back as a freshman. Really kind of burst onto the scene in the Southeastern Conference. But outside of him, you don't really have that next go-to guy, that next running back, and that could be Lee Chambers. He could definitely step right in there, get some playing time as the number 2 on the depth chart, and also, since he's so versatile, he can catch out of the backfield as we've seen throughout his high school career in Coffeyville. So I think when you take a look at it, that's why it wouldn't surprise me to see him end up at Mississippi State because of the playing time, because at Alabama and at Miami, they're going to be loaded with talent at that position.
All right, let's take the playing time factor out. Say Alabama and Miami's going to say, look, we'll give you just as much playing time as you're going to get at Starkville. Granted, it may not be true because there's going to be more superstars come through those two programs versus State. But let's take away the playing time factor. What do you feel like, for you personally, just put yourself in Lee Chambers' shoes, where would you see yourself?
That's pretty tough. It would be hard for me to turn down going to Miami. I'll say this though: the one thing that would scare me is the atmosphere down there. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's not the safest place, and they've had their problems off the field, and well documented the last 20 years or so. You go somewhere like Alabama, the excitement of Nick Saban, the returns. Everybody down there wants to say this is a return of Alabama football. It would be really hard for me to stay in Starkville versus having a chance to go play at Alabama or Miami because of the exposure you're going to get. So I can't put myself in that situation to be Lee Chambers, but I would just say that you have to, if the depth chart is all the same, for me, it would probably be a two-horse race between Alabama and Miami. But I can see, like I said, I can see him if he wants to stay closer to home because Tuscaloosa, and certainly Miami a long way away from Coffeyville, Mississippi.
Absolutely. Well, let's take that factor in there. South Beach versus Coffeyville, Tuscaloosa versus Coffeyville, Starkville versus Coffeyville. Starkville's going to feel like home. Is the comfort factor is going to be there for him?
Absolutely, and that's one thing. You read some of these kids and what they say is sometimes you have these kids' distance absolutely is a factor. They don't want to go and play 5 or 6 7 hours away from home. Some of them they don't care. They'll come from California to play football in the SEC, or they'll go from the South and go out to play football at USC. It doesn't matter to them. And I think it wouldn't surprise me with the way we've heard Chambers that distance is not going to play a factor at all, because if he comes back and he's hyped on Miami and he's hyped on Alabama, obviously driving down there he understands the distance. So I think that's probably not going to be a factor. And if that's the case, and if depth chart is going to be the main factor, like I said, I can't see him staying at Mississippi State, but at the same time, Starkville definitely going to feel more at home because it's smaller. Everywhere in North Mississippi is pretty small compared to Miami.
And one thing you never hear anybody talk about in the situation when it comes to recruiting, the education part of going to college. He talked about it in his interview this last week about Miami. He's like, there's always something to do. He's almost to the point where you get tired of going out, that you just stay at home and get a break. Do you feel like, because he's a sharp kid, everybody may not realize this. He has great grades, very good study habits and things like that. Is he going to take and say, be the mature side of things and look at it and say, there's too many distractions in Miami for me to go down there, get caught up in that, and ruin my education career, because football's not going to last forever?
Absolutely. And the one thing that's interesting that I'm sure Miami coaches, did you know Miami's a private school?
Did not realize
they're
that.
A private school. You take a look at their athletes and the U and all that. They're coming in the fatigues in the mid-'80s. It really just kind of the us against them. It's a private school. A lot of people, myself, didn't know that until a couple of years ago. And so for what you see out of Miami on ESPN, you don't see on campus. So you take a look at the academic side. Lee Chambers is an intelligent kid. Miami can offer him not only a chance to exposure in college, great football atmosphere, a chance to play in the NFL, but a big-time degree also from one of America's best universities.
Yep, so just basically put it in a nutshell, we're glad we're not Lee Chambers.
Yeah, it would really be a tough decision because, like I said, if distance is not a factor, of course, not being a State fan, it's easy to say you wouldn't go to State, but at the same time, you take a look at Alabama and Miami, especially with Miami being a private school, and if you loved it that much, it's really going to be interesting to see if he sticks with his commitment.
I say he stays in Starkville, but let's call it February 7th, last hour. Where do you go?
I think he's probably going to stay in Starkville as well, because I think when it all comes down to it, he's probably going to say, I can get a better chance to play at Mississippi State, and I can be kind of the number 2 guy, and if things work out, who knows, it can make him a bigger star in Starkville.
Absolutely. It depends. In my hand, I head to Tuscaloosa, but that's just me. Real quick, before we take it to a break, I want to say congratulations to Cornelius Wortham he was formerly with the Seattle Seahawks, signed a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Saints. Will be joining Fred Thomas down in New Orleans with the Saints next season. Well, that's going to wrap up that segment. We still got a little bit more to go here. We're going to take a look at who's hot, who's not going into the basketball playoffs. A lot of momentum up in the air and 2 weeks away, so it's going to be interesting. So real quick, we'll take you to a break. Be back with more right after this. And welcome back, everyone, to Westside Grill here in Bruce. 983-2828 is the number here. Just come by, see Charles and everyone else down here. Order some good food. Charles cooking up. I think everybody pretty much ready to clean sweep tonight on the catfish dinner, so we'll have to rush to the rest of the show to get to that here pretty soon. Jeremy, real quick, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this. The high school basketball playoffs coming up here pretty soon. We look at teams. We've already touched on it earlier in the earlier in the show, excuse me. So a couple of teams, but we'll start 4A. Work our way down. We'll start in your neck of the woods, Oxford High School, a team that, they get it done. They're not flashy. You're not going to hear about them in the Daily Journal and the Clarion Ledger. They just go out, take care of business. At the end of the night, they pick up another W and go home. Yeah,
they're something like 19-5, 25 on the year, and they're not going to wow you with athleticism. They're not going to wow you with SportsCenter type highlights. But, and I've said this before off camera, Drew Tyler, to me, find me a better coach in the state of Mississippi in basketball. The guy does it every year with good, not great basketball players. Every now and then he'll have a Vincent Camper or a Benny Denton or a John Gunn go play on the D1 level. But usually he does it with guys like your favorite JJF team,
yes.
Cedric Hilliard, who's a good athlete, Justin Giller, guys that know how to play the game, that are well coached. And I think that mentality that we're going to win every single year rubs off on these kids, because you walk in that gymnasium and the banners, you can't see the building for the banners in the gym. And I think they're definitely one of the teams that's hot going in. And they got a big emotional win versus Lafayette County a couple of weekends ago. They beat a good Coahoma County team in the Hotbed Classic. So they're kind of rolling along right now, and don't be surprised if you see them getting close to Jackson.
Absolutely. If we go back to that Coahoma County game, I think that was, I can't say what I said off the air to you on that alley-oop dunk on the backside, but I think that was a ball game where I think Coach Tyler felt challenged, because he had a legendary coach across the way, and the two teams were going back and forth, and it took Drew's game up to another level. Coach Tyler's game up to another level.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think one thing, too, is it tested Coahoma County's guards. I think you saw the weakness. They have absolutely zero guard play. They're 6'7", 6'5", and 6'4" across the front line. They've got a national top 100 recruit in Rayburn Johnson, who's going to go play at Mississippi State next year. Outstanding prospect. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any help from the guard position, and that's where Oxford excels. They don't have a starter above 6'4". They don't have a player taller than 6'5". But again, their guard play. You win with guard play in tournament time because you have to limit the turnovers, and you have to find a way to get the ball through the basket. Justin Giller does a great job with that. Cedric Hilliard, 6'1", the only senior on this Oxford team, mind you, shut down Rayburn Johnson in the second half because he's just as athletic, and he's quicker than Rayburn Johnson. But more importantly, he has that dog mentality to him that I'm going to stop you, I'm going to do whatever it takes, and that comes from Drew Tyler, who does an amazing job. And don't forget, like I said, this is a young basketball team. Their best player, Justin Giller, still just a junior, and everybody's coming back next year except for Cedric Hilliard. So they're gonna continue to be dominant for years to come.
Absolutely. Would say in Oxford, on the girls' side of the coin there, Oxford Lady Chargers, they're doing what they always do each year. They win ball games. They lost to Tunica, I think, last week. This is going to be a team here that when it comes tournament time, you're going to have to just sit and wait and see, because some nights they come out and play great, other nights come out extremely flat. And, of course, as we know at the end of the year, that's the time to be playing flat.
It's not, but I think you take a look at them. They're extremely balanced. They've got good guard play with Tamara Wadlington and Tanel Jones, along with Danielle Johnson, and they've got good inside play with the two Thompsons, Deanna and Kristen, and also Amisha Johnson as well. They do go through their shooting lapses at times. And I've only seen them play twice this year, and that was against Lafayette both times, and they really had no trouble there. They're extremely athletic. They love to press and love to get after you, and they attack the glass as well. They're extremely athletic. They've got a good inside presence. We talked about at the beginning of the year, can they find somebody to replace Hope Adams? Last year she was an honorable mention McDonald's All-American, and this year I think they've done it in a more team-oriented aspect. But I think Deanna Thompson's really done a nice job filling in her shoes.
Absolutely. We'll stay there. Go back to the guys' action. The dark horse in 4A. A lot of people may laugh when we talk about this. They've already beat Pontotoc. They beat Oxford. Lafayette County, on any given night, could come out there. They could play with the best.
It really surprised me this year when they played Oxford. You talk about a team that's athletic. They've got an inside presence in Jeffrey Phillips that they completely dominated Oxford inside. If that's Oxford's one weakness, or if there is weakness in Oxford, that's it. It's inside play. And Phillips did a tremendous job. Desmond Ivey does a nice job as well. They've got Montez Phillips. And plus, the X factor for them is DJ LeGrand, the point guard. The transfer from Oxford led them to a big victory at home. And this is without a doubt the dark horse because, like you said, they beat Pontotoc, they beat Oxford. They're well coached as well. And a lot of times in the years past, Lafayette has had the good coaching, but they never had the athletes. This year they've got both. And don't be surprised if this team upsets a couple of favorites as we get deeper into the playoffs.
Absolutely. So that's going to be an interesting clash there, who matches up with who out of that region. Lafayette County girls, tough year for Lafayette County. Had a couple of knee injuries that really took out two of their key players starting the season. First-year head coach there as well. It's one of those things, you just bite the bullet, get some experience in these kids, and just go out each night and fight as hard as you can.
Well, people are going to laugh at me when I say this, but they have some talent.
They do. They seriously do.
Goolsby, Brittany Greer, they have some talent. They are well coached as well. You could see the improvement from one game to the next after they played Oxford. The first time got beat by 38 points. The second time, I know people are going to laugh and say this, but they kept it close to 20. But you could just feel that team got better. They just didn't have the athletes to run with Oxford. If they can continue to develop some of these athletes, look for them to turn it around in the near future.
Absolutely. Staying in 4A, one of the favorites you got to think in the girls' action is going to be the Pontotoc Lady Warriors, a very young basketball team, but they're ranked right now number 3 in 4A. They've knocked off Oxford. They got a big matchup coming up with Shannon on down the line. This Pontotoc Lady Warriors team, a tradition that continues in Pontotoc in women's basketball, they can make some serious noise in 4A.
And if they can find a consistent number 2 scorer behind Amber Johnson, watch out for this team. I think they're going to go to Jackson anyway. If they can find a consistent second and third scorer, this team could really have a chance to win the state championship. Because as young as they are, though, they're a lot more talented than some of the experienced teams in our region. You talked about a big victory against Oxford, and Oxford is an experienced basketball team. And so if Amber Johnson, she's not going to be able to carry them herself. She's going to have a little bit of help. But if they can find somebody that can put up 10 to 15 points a game while she scores her 30, they could really get down to Jackson and maybe bring home a championship.
Absolutely. Of course, you got to think that player would be Lori Crudup, another young player that plays in the post. She quietly puts together about a 10 to 15 point performance every night. And although Deamber gets the points, a lot of the attention, she falls in that shadow there. She's a player that if she gets her 15, if she can turn that 15 to 20 on a night, who knows what can happen.
And that's what they've got to have. They've got to have that consistent scoring. And I'm telling you, they can have that. They can get that consistent scoring. Watch out for this team. I'm telling you, they can make some big noise in Jackson when they get there.
Another team you have to consider them a dark horse as well. Got beat on the buzzer beater by Lafayette County. The Pontotoc boys, you've only seen them once this year against Myrtle, which that one got out of hand as anticipated. But this is a good team. Inside, outside, athletes all over the floor, tall, skinny, lanky kids that like to get up and get the basketball.
Yeah, they're what impresses me, they're so long. They're not, weight-wise, they're not big, but they're athletic and they're long. They like to press. They fill the passing lanes on defense. You watch them play against Myrtle. They play that aggressive man-to-man defense. They fill back into 2-3 zones at times. And once they pressure you, it's not an overly intense pressure, but they use their length to really cause problems. And they big loss to Lafayette for them, because I know at home you feel like you always want to protect your home court, but they're well coached as well. A lot of good coaches. I know we kind of harp on that. It seems like we say it every time we talk about a team, but you have a lot of really good coaches in our viewing area, and Pontotoc is one with Coach Ginn down there. And so if they can just avoid their shooting woes like they've been known to have the last couple of years, they can avoid that and get after teams that continue to force turnovers. They're along with Lafayette, they are a dark horse in 4A as well.
Another team in that region you really got to put in there. Also to the team in our other region, Tishomingo County, winning that region. I'm not going to say this to make Tishomingo County fans mad, but this team, I don't really know how to put this. It's going to make people mad, basically. This team is not as good as their record shows. I don't feel they're the best team in that region, but they've won the region. They'll be the number 1 seed going to that tournament. But the thing that counts the most about Tishomingo County is they know how to win. They've got confidence that they're going to win, and they go out and take care of business.
Well, that's what you have to do. Knowing how to win and believing you're going to win counts as much as talent and experience this time of year. I haven't seen them play this year. But anytime you win a region, you have a good basketball team. Now, it just depends after that where you're ranked. They're one of the top teams in the state, as far as ranking is concerned. But they'll have a chance to prove themselves, and then we'll find out just how good they are once we get deeper into the playoffs. But you take a look at some of the teams in 4A. Shannon is an extremely good basketball team. You talk about Pontotoc, Tishomingo County. So you've got a lot of teams in 4A that, the 4A North really loaded this year with good teams.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to bring up next. The Shannon Red Raiders, Xavier Ruth, the Delta State signee, Clark, Young, all those kids out there. You talk about athletes on the team. These guys have got athletes sitting in the bus, not even getting to play.
Yeah, and they've had some tough losses this year too. They came off a tough loss to Nettleton this past week. But their team too, Xavier Ruth, they have to put it together defensively. We all know they can put it through the net, but they have to come up with it defensively and stop some of these teams like a Pontotoc, like a Tishomingo County, if they're going to go deep into the playoffs, because nobody's going to out-athlete them, because Xavier Ruth and Darius Young are two of the best athletes in the state anyway. So they've got to come up and they've got to improve on the defensive end if they're going to get far, because I think talent-wise they do have the ingredients to go far in the playoffs.
Absolutely, and we're going to take it to a break real quick. But my team in that region, look out for West Point, Michael Carr, best freshman in the state. I'm going to keep saying this till the kid graduates, and it's going to be mad because he can't jump straight to the NBA. So anyway, watch out for the West Point Green Wave in basketball. Coach Brooks out there taking a football school, turning it into a basketball program. But real quick, we're going to take you to a break. We'll come back, look at 3A, 2A basketball here on the Westside Grill Coaches Show. So back with more right after this.
Life is full of major moments. Some you could do without, and some you'll treasure. So for those times when your life seems to blaze out of control, and for those times when all of your hard work pays off, remember who's been by your side yesterday and today, and who'll be there tomorrow. Your Farm Bureau Insurance Agent. Some people just make your life better.
King's Tire in Houston, offering the largest selection of used and new tires. They carry all sizes of many name brand tires. All used tires carry a 30-day warranty. They also offer rotation and balancing. King's Tire is also your place for car and motorcycle brakes and motorcycle tires. They offer windshield replacement, and they do 24-hour car door unlocking. Open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday until lunch on Saturday. Closed on Wednesdays. They accept Visa and MasterCard. See owners Reggie and Martha Callahan at King's Tire on the southeast corner of the square in Houston. Renaissance Bank in Calhoun City. The name is new, but they still offer the same great service. Totally free checking, savings account, and CDs, home loans and business loans, 24-hour ATM inside, and drive-through window for your convenience. Jimmy Clemens invites you to come by and visit all the staff. Rhonda Ray, Sandra Doolittle, Jennifer Parker, Penny Nichols, Mary Johnson, and Robbie Winter. Come see them today for all of your financial needs, or call them at 628-6692. Highway 8 East in Calhoun City, that's Renaissance Bank.
You know, being teammates is about more than just helping each other win races every week. It's also about helping each other learn.
That's right. Michael has taught me that Napa parts are as good or better than the parts that came on your own car, and that Napa parts professionals can always help you get the job done right the first time.
Yeah, and Junior taught me how to do this.
I'm not taking credit for that. That needs just a little work there, bud.
Hey, yo, Jaws. Yo, this is Steven. Cook me up another one of them burgers. Man, I need some fuel. Yo, Westside!
And welcome back to the show, everyone. Adam Gore, Jeremy Kennedy, Adam Hamilton on hand here at Westside Grill. Jeremy, quickly, got a little bit of time left. We'll talk about 3A, 2A. matchup we saw. I called it a prelude to a championship. Was really kind of a letdown. Yeah, but Aberdeen, Nelton. But you got to throw Caledonia in the mix, although they're not in the viewing area. Caledonia, number one team in 3A. Aberdeen, Nelton. You know what? You can see that for the Region 2 3A championship. You can see it for the North State championship. You can see it for the state championship. And if they took the second team in the overall state championship, you might just see it for the overall championship.
Yeah, these two teams, both. I mean, I don't know if we've ever done a game in the 2 years that I've been here with as many athletes on the floor at one time as Aberdeen and Nettleton. You go about it. You talk about the who's hot, who's not. Nettleton would have been maybe the hottest team in the state, but after that loss, and Aberdeen's won now over Nettleton. They win that division. Nettleton, they're still a hot team going in, but you have to think about the emotions and what you saw out of that team when the pressure hit. It kind of crumbled a little bit. Frustrated. They were pointing fingers at each other. Yelling at each other on the sidelines. Jeremy Word really not in the right frame of mind to help that team come back from a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. So you have to wonder about this team's frame of mind now because, after they beat Tupelo by double digits and beat Shannon, you wonder how much of the confidence factor maybe ballooned a little bit on this team. They thought all they had to do was show up at home to get a big win. But Aberdeen, Nettleton, Caledonia, you put those teams, put them in a pile, shake them up. You're not really going to get a clear-cut favorite, in my opinion, after that. I will say this for Nettleton, though. If they can't find another scorer besides Jeremy Word and Pierre Hadley, this team could be in trouble because Morris really struggled. Farr is just a sophomore. You can't really depend on him to be a big-time scorer. So Jeremy Word and Pierre Hadley are going to have the same type of performance throughout the playoffs that they had in that one game against Tupelo.
Absolutely. We talk about the Bulldogs. I think they kind of got lost in this hype. Nettleton just beat Shannon. Nettleton just beat Tupelo. Nettleton just beat the Grizzlies. Nettleton just beat the Bulls. You know, it's one of those type situations where everybody was harping on Nettleton. Aberdeen comes in there with a good guard play, solid inside play. Everybody's saying, hey, the Bulldogs got game.
Yeah, they do. Antonio Little, and you throw in. What impressed me though, Alec Johnson. The guy you said before the game, if he has 12 points, Aberdeen wins. He had 13 points, and Aberdeen won. And he has to become a force inside as well. You're not going to find many teams in 3A that are talented that are going to have 6'2" and 6'1" across the front. So, we'll have to see if he can do it against guys that are 6'4" and 6'5". But what Aberdeen did prove is the mental toughness going on the road in a rivalry game for the division, and you take out your opponent from the beginning. That says a lot about that team, and this is going to be a tough team to beat because you talk about confidence. They're beaming with it right now after that performance.
Absolutely. Also, look at Aberdeen. They came off an embarrassing performance against Starkville. Granted, the number 1 team in the state, they only scored 28 points. Aberdeen's used to scoring 28 points per quarter, and you hold them to that for 4 quarters. That was a good rebound and a good answer for Coach Hazel's team.
Absolutely. You couldn't have a better rebound to go into a big rival's gymnasium with the division on the line and with their confidence. And Nettleton, 18-2, they were 2-0 in the division coming in. That one of their 2 losses was Tupelo that they eventually avenged. So, to do that under all those circumstances, if you're Coach Hazel, you really have to like your team coming down the stretch. They're definitely on the who's hot list.
Absolutely. And look in the girls' division in that same 2-3A. Nettleton is close to Aberdeen. Aberdeen setting a school record this year. The school record for most wins was previously 14, up to 18 now. But they were in there against Aberdeen, lost in overtime after having a shot rim out in overtime against South Pontotoc. Houston girls have been right in there with them. This is one of those regions where girls-wise is kind of getting lost with all the hype on the boys, but this is a competitive girls region.
It is a competitive girls region, but I think one reason why it's lost the hype is because none of these teams really are that great. With exception, Aberdeen is a good team, but we saw Nettleton hang with them, and if not for some of the mental mistakes and turnovers they made, Nettleton would have won the ball game. This division really, Aberdeen's to lose. They really have had an easy time going through the division. So if you're Nettleton or if you're Houston, you're trying to lock up that number 2 seed when you go into division play, and then if Nettleton gets another shot at Aberdeen, who knows?
There's probably a lot of ill people in Prentice County right now. 2 good teams in 3A, Boonville boys, Boonville girls. Not a lot of attention on these teams. This is the type of teams, they have the talent, both boys and girls wise, to come in and pull the rug out from under these big hyped up teams.
Yeah, and that's one thing you have to worry about too if you're the hyped up teams, because it gets into tournament time. You always have to be wary of the little dog mentality, because they've got nothing to lose. They're not supposed to be there, and that's the times when you can catch a Nettleton or an Aberdeen on an off night, and next thing you know, these teams that we thought were going to be in Jackson are going to be down there with us helping us watch it.
Absolutely. Now we shift down to 2A real quick. We thought for 2.5 quarters Calhoun City was the team to beat in the North, but Oklahoma said, not so fast, my friend.
I never thought, when we were sitting there with 2:30 to play in the third quarter and Calhoun City with a 22-point lead, and you and I really, the way they played for 2.5 quarters, I don't think you could have found a team above Jackson that was better than Calhoun City. But the way that team just collapsed is still, it just really baffles you, because Oklahoma had nothing going. They couldn't hit anything. They couldn't stop Calhoun City offensively. The Wildcats were really shooting the ball well, and then all of a sudden, a light came on and the thing reversed, and the next thing you know, Oklahoma cuts it to 11 to start the fourth quarter, and they just kept the momentum. And Calhoun City, you talking to Coach Coffey after the ball game, he said, you could see the run coming, and I felt helpless because we couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where Calhoun City looked up, saw 22 points, kind of lost the edge, and then they turn around and lose a 6-point game to Houston, which is, Houston wants to beat Calhoun City. It don't matter what the sport is. If they're walking down the street, they want to get to the end of the road before Calhoun City does, and they beat them there. So it's one of those things. You look at Calhoun City, how they finish out. Of course, this airs Friday night. We're taping it on a Monday night. Tuesday night against Oxford. Friday night against Noxubee County. Monday night against Nettleton. Tuesday night against Aberdeen. And they finish up with Houston at home for senior appreciation. This team right here could be looking at a 7-game skid if they don't get it together even if they get it together, they can still be looking at 7 games again.
Absolutely, that's the best point. You can play well and still lose to some of these teams, but the one thing they have to do is they have to put this out of their mind. We talked about the emotion, all the teams in our viewing area, all those storylines with the emotions. This team, without a doubt, coming off the most emotional loss out of any team we cover, because you have the connection there with Coach Coffey and Coach Ford and Okolona, and then you throw in there at home, leading by 22 points with essentially 10 minutes to play in the ball game, and all of a sudden you crumble and you fall to the pressure, and then the next night you lose to a team that you have more talent than. And now you take a look at that schedule, and if you're a player, you take a look and you say, God, we got to play Oxford, Noxubee County, Nelson. You're thinking about, well, is this a time for us to stand up and fight, or should we just go ahead and crumble? That's going to be interesting to see is how they handle all of this. And we'll find out quickly, though, Tuesday night, how they come out and play at Oxford.
Absolutely. And another thing for Nelson, Calhoun City, they played to the state championship game. They've already played over 20 games in a much shorter time span. So we're looking at some kids that could be burned out on basketball.
And that's one thing you have to worry about, too, especially with Calhoun City, because they play such a fast-paced style. They're run and gun, intense defensive pressure. They press every time the other team gets the basketball. So you have to wonder, are their legs still with them, and the mind frame of, can we get over the hump? Can we do this? Or is it going to be a situation where they're like, well, we played 25 games, we won some, the schedule's just too tough, and we're just going to go and finish the season, and if we get to the playoffs and win, so be it. If not, no big deal.
Well, the reason why we won't be here next week on a Monday night, being an Ellerton-Calhoun City matchup, that game could be a make-or-break game for the season for 2 good basketball teams. Granted, 2A versus 3A, but confidence big time on the balance there. Well, that's just about all the time we have for the Coaches Show, Jeremy. Appreciate you coming out. Adam Hamilton filling in for Stephen Chris tonight. Ryan Whittington not with us tonight. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up here. Remind everybody, come by, give us a call. We might be down here next Wednesday for the Coaches Show, depending on schedules of class and then other ball games, of course. But come by, see Charles here at Westside Grill across from Sonic. If you're coming into the red light, just look for Sonic, then it's right across the left. So come out, enjoy some food here. Ours is ready, so we're going to sign off here. So for Jeremy Kennedy, Adam Hamilton, I'm Adam Gore. See you next time here on The Coaches Show.
Life is full of major moments. Some you could do without, and some you'll treasure. So for those times when your life seems to blaze out of control, and for those times when all of your hard work pays off, remember who's been by your side yesterday and today, and who'll be there tomorrow. Your Farm Bureau Insurance Agent. Some people just make your life better.
King's Tire in Houston, offering the largest selection of used and new tires. They carry all sizes of many name brand tires. All used tires carry a 30-day warranty. They also offer rotation and balancing. King's Tire is also your place for car and motorcycle brakes and motorcycle tires. They offer windshield replacement, and they do 24-hour car door unlocking. Open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday until lunch on Saturday. Closed on Wednesdays. They accept Visa and MasterCard. See owners Reggie and Martha Callahan at King's Tire on the southeast corner of the square in Houston. Renaissance Bank in Calhoun City. The name is new, but they still offer the same great service. Totally free checking, savings account, and CDs, home loans and business loans, 24-hour ATM inside, and drive-through window for your convenience. Jimmy Clemens invites you to come by and visit all the staff. Rhonda Ray, Sandra Doolittle, Jennifer Parker, Penny Nichols, Mary Johnson, and Robbie Winter. Come see them today for all of your financial needs, or call them at 628-6692. Highway 8 East in Calhoun City, that's Renaissance Bank.
You know, being teammates is about more than just helping each other win races every week. It's also about helping each other learn.
That's right. Michael has taught me that Napa parts are as good or better than the parts that came on your own car, and that Napa parts professionals can always help you get the job done right the first time.
Yeah, and Junior taught me how to do this.
I'm not taking credit for that. That needs just a little work there, bud.
Hey, yo, Jaws. Yo, this is Steven. Cook me up another one of them burgers. Man, I need some fuel. Yo, Westside!
We're talking with Victoria's coach, Coach Hazel. Coach Hazel, big win for your guys tonight. You came out early, showed a lot of desire to win this basketball game. You got to be proud of the way the kids came out and played tonight.
I'm very proud of each and every one of the guys. They worked hard in practice. They came tonight with a desire to win. They played with a determination. They hustle and they gave their best, and that's what got us this win tonight.
All right, Coach, a lot of the hype was on the guard plays tonight, but your big guys down low, Walker and Johnson, got the job done, leading your team in scoring 15, 13 points. Talk about the play of the big guys, both offensively and also rebounding the basketball.
Offensively, Antonio Walker and Alex Johnson, we knew we could go inside to those guys. It was just a matter of them, executing down inside. They're going to get better as the season goes, and I'm just proud of every one of them.
All right, Coach, one more big game against Caledonia on the road, and then you'll get the division championship if you can pull off the win there. But Caledonia, a very good basketball team.
A real good basketball team, a team that we played early, and we've been told that they was going to beat us, and all by, a friend of mine that from that area, and I take it as a warning, and we're going to take it and work with that, and and we're going to get after them, and they're going to get after us. So. We played well on the road, and we just going to go in there with the understanding that we got to play 32 minutes of ball. If it's required to go more, we'll go more.
All right, Coach, congratulations on a big win tonight, a big step towards that division championship, and good luck against Caledonia.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you know what they call the quarter pounder with cheese in France?
They don't call it the quarter pounder with cheese?
No, see, they use the metric system. They don't know what a quarter pound is.
So what do they call it?
They call it the Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. Then what do they call the Big Mac?
Oh, it's still the Big Mac. Only they call it Le Big Mac.
Oh, what do they call the Whopper?
I don't know. I didn't go to Burger King.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hey, look, Westside Grill. Dude, let's stop there. They have great food anytime.
Life is full of major moments. Some you could do without, and some you'll treasure. So for those times when your life seems to blaze out of control, and for those times when all of your hard work pays off, remember who's been by your side yesterday and today, and who'll be there tomorrow. Your Farm Bureau Insurance Agent. Some people just make your life better.
Join us next Monday night at Westside Grill and be a part of the Coaches Show here on W07BN.